although studying at IAS Gurukul, I'll tell you that whatever you're studying, try as far as possible not to focus on memorizing it without understanding it, because it will become much more difficult for you, and I don't think you'll be able to write as great as you could if you really understood what you were doing.
Hello friends, I'm very happy to introduce to you Pratyush Pandey. He's scored All India rank 21 this year in the Civil Services examination for 2019. And to say the least, he's a brilliant mind. And he's going to share his general study strategy for both the prelims and the mains with you. So without wasting much time, I will ask Pratyush to share his strategy.
I'm going to talk about how you can prepare for both prelims and mains at the same time and do it in a simpler, faster way, which will help you to get more marks with less effort and also have more fun doing it. So first of all, you need to understand that the material can be infinite if you don't know what you're doing. You can spend your entire life reading about minute details about, let's say, the Mauryas or the Guptas, which are of no benefit for the exam. This is why you need to learn that material is infinite, your memory, your time, your energy are finite, and everything you read is not equally important. So you need to prioritize what is important, what is slightly less important, and what is completely irrelevant for the exam. This is what I'll call parts A, B, and C for prelims. So if you've seen the previous year papers for prelims, you should be knowing that there are some topics which are much more important than others. These are always environment, because it's, after all, an exam for the Forest Service as well. Questions about agriculture, questions about the economy, questions about modern history, and questions about culture, art and culture in the sense of books, religion, not about people and dynasty, not about which king killed whom or which king's kingdom was, let's say, in this particular area on a map. That doesn't come anymore. So don't spend a lot of time on those things. Part A is the part you really study for. I would say this is the 150 or 160 marks. It's again what's called the Pareto Principle, 80-20 rule, that 80% of the results come from 20% of the things. So a company gets 80% of its revenues from 20% of its customers usually. It's the same concept over here. You learn what is part A, the topics that either have a high reward, meaning that a lot of questions come from here. This is, if you look at 2019 paper, you will see environment, agriculture, modern history, and even a topic like Buddhism, which that I'll say is a high probability. This is the next point, that this question, it almost always comes every year. Question on Buddhism will be here. Almost, if you see the last 5 years, you'll find at least one there coming. Then you'll find a world map, question based on world map. It's also high probability in the sense that it keeps coming almost every year. Same for monetary policy. Difference between probability and reward is that reward means how many questions come, and probability means how likely is it to come. World map is high probability because it almost always comes. It's not very high reward because only one question comes. Still, it's worth studying whatever has a high reward or whatever has a high probability. Then the third factor is cost, which is how much time do you need to put into it. This depends on you. If you like a subject, you'll find that it's easier to study. If you don't like one, you'll find that it's slightly harder. I hate memorizing facts, and when I looked at the NCERT for geography, I saw it filled with facts about landforms like dikes and sills and things, and I left all of that because I could see that it simply doesn't come anymore, and I'd much rather spend my time on something else. So, why I'm saying this is that you should also appreciate there's no compulsory book because there's no prescribed syllabus for the exam. So if someone says you have to read NCERT of class 6 or something, you don't have to do anything. You only pick up a book when it adds value. If it's not telling you anything you don't already know, then throw it away. It's not worth spending time on. Again, some of the sources which I've mentioned in my blog are not the common sources, because it doesn't matter. A book is a book. Most of it is the same. It's not that if you read X book instead of Y book, you'll clear the exam. It doesn't work that way. So that covers part A. Part B is a lot of the topics which still do come, but they're simply so tough to memorize that it's not worth spending too much time over here. This is things like what came in 2019 about one specific site in Harappa, or one particular stupa edict of the Emperor Ashok. See, these are facts. There are a whole ton of them. I didn't memorize them because I knew that it's going to take a lot of effort, and I didn't expect these things would come. So I took the risk that they won't come. They came, and I left these questions because they want what I studied for. This, I would say, is somewhere between 20 to 30 marks. This is something you read. You should read it. But if you don't remember it, don't put up too much of a fight. Move on. If you remember, if it sticks in your mind, that's good. If it doesn't, let it be. And part C is the outliers, the totally irrelevant questions, let's say about Tansen or about Saint Nimbarka, these which came in 2019 prelims. If you spend your time reading about every Bhakti saint, you're never going to finish revising for the paper, and it's not worth it. You simply can't predict which saint is going to be asked in the exam, which particular edict will come. So I would say ignore part C. Don't specifically base your preparation on questions like a Tansen or a McBride commission in a mains paper. Learn to skip these because there's a high chance that no one will know them anyway. Next, in prelims, it's about, you need to also understand it's about guessing. They're very, I would say not more than maybe 30 or 40 questions, if that you absolutely know the answer to. It becomes a question of being able to eliminate options. There are multiple ways of guessing, but you should also know that guess by its very name means that you don't know the answer. There's also a chance you're going to make a mistake. I think the risk is still worth taking because you have a 1 in 4 chance of getting it right. And if you do the math, if you guess 4 questions and if even 1 is right and 3 are wrong, you still end up at 0, which is the same which you would have been if you didn't even attempt the questions. And if you guess, it usually should be better than 1 in 4, so you'll have a higher chance of getting some marks by guessing in most cases. Common sense is one of the best ways to help you guess. For example, let's take a question that came in 2019 about an Inter-Creditor Agreement. So the very name Inter-Creditor should tell you credit is lending. A creditor would only care about getting his money back. And again, I mentioned this in my blog that if you see the options, one is about a regulator. Creditors cannot be regulators because batsmen can't be umpires, bowlers can't be the umpire. So that option would also have been eliminated. The other options were about, I think, reducing the government's deficit or financing infrastructure projects. This has nothing to do with lenders. Lenders just lend money and get their money back. They don't care about deficits and infrastructure. So if you just break down the words, it can often help you to guess the answer. Other techniques are language. For example, if you asked about, let's say, Cassini-Huygens, you'll know that Cassini is an Italian name. This means there's a European connection somewhere. It's unlikely it would only be NASA that has launched this mission. Then there was another question about a petroleum and regulatory board. I think the question was about, is it the first board to be set up by India? Why would that be the first board of a newly independent country? It would probably have much more important priorities at that point in time. And again, it's not like India's a oil-rich country, so the petroleum board is highly unlikely to be the board that would have been set up. These little tricks will fetch you a lot of marks because you will have to make guesses in most cases to reach anywhere near the cutoff. Guesses should be ideally educated guesses, and that you can at least eliminate. If you can eliminate even one option, then I would say you should make a guess in that question. If you look at mains and you look at prelims, you'll also realize there can be a lot of overlap if you're smart about it. For this, I'll first talk about mains. The very fact that it's a generalist exam should tell you a lot. A generalist exam is an exam that's wide, and a specialist exam is an exam that's narrow. So I'll draw this. This is general. You never go deep. This is specialist. A specialist knows a lot about a little, and a generalist knows a little about a lot. So when you ask questions in the mains, you never answer like a specialist. A question that came about the advantages of biotechnology was for 250 words. I don't think I knew even more than 50 words if I write concisely about the advantages of biotechnology. And 50 words is more than enough to answer a 250-word question for the simple reason that you break your answer into more and more dimensions to cover as much width as you can. So when you're asked about advantages of biotechnology, you never start off writing the advantages of biotechnology. You can introduce with a definition of what biotechnology is. Again, it's a generalist exam. Your definition can be generalist. You don't have to give a precise definition, especially if you don't know it. I didn't like mugging up definitions, so I would give a simple definition in my own words, something about using technology to augment biological organisms, anything that just makes sense in that context. Then you can talk about, let's say, what India has done in biotechnology so far. Here is where prelims helps you. If you remembered any mission, any scheme, put it here. The more specific you can be, the better your answer will be. If you write completely generic points, it's likely you'll get less marks, and prelims helps you in making your answer more specific. So you've covered an introduction, you've written what India has done in biotechnology, but the question asks about advantages of biotechnology. Now you start off with the advantages of biotechnology. Since this is what the question asked, you'll probably make this the biggest part of your answer. And again, you can break advantages into even smaller segments. Let's talk about agricultural advantages, about how you can have shorter crop life cycles, you can have higher yields, you have economic advantages. Let's say doubling the farmer's income. You can mention the committee which first said this. You can talk about creating agro-based employment and encouraging FDI. That's economic. You've covered agricultural, economic. You can go to social, how women farmers will benefit from biotechnology. Then how landless laborers and small farmers can also increase their income and wages through biotechnology. You can even mention ecological advantages, that if you have higher yields, you'll have less need to convert forest to agricultural land. You've got 4 sub-dimensions in your advantages. This is more than enough for a 250-word answer. And then since you probably still have space, you can talk about some of the challenges of biotechnology. These challenges are also very simple, because these challenges apply to so many industries that we don't have enough investment, we have high cost of credit, we don't have enough skilled researchers, there's still lower literacy and acceptance of technology, there's a fear of monopoly by, let's say, big biotech companies such as Monsanto. So this is a specific point. You probably want to mention the specific points first and then come to the points that are same for every exam answer. So now you've done an introduction, you've done what India has done in biotechnology, you've covered advantages, you've covered what are the challenges. You can talk about what are the steps that can be taken now to improve this. Again, it's very simple. Talk about private sector participation, collaboration with academic institutions, talk about seed funding for startups. These points I could use in any answer. So you don't really need to know exactly about biotechnology. You can still write a great answer. I finish it with a conclusion. So you've got 6 dimensions in this answer: introduction, you've got what the steps that have been taken, you've got the advantages, you've got the challenges, you've got the steps that should be taken in the future, and you've got a conclusion. And this is more than enough for a 250-word answer. The only challenge you'll have is, in fact, putting all this in that much time and space. For this, you need to learn how to write extremely concise and short sentences. So you won't ever write biotechnology will help to raise the incomes of farmers. Just write boost farmers' incomes as short as you can, so you can cover more number of points in that much time and space. You should also appreciate that you have only 7 minutes for a 10 marker, 11 minutes for a 15 marker, and understand that nothing that you read which you have not put in the exam is of any use. Ultimately, it only counts what you've written. That's why I say learn how to write an answer before you start reading books. Because when you read, you should focus only on reading and retaining what you're going to write. Everything else is extra in the sense you don't really need it. What you'll get from prelims are facts. Put those facts in your mains answers to make them more specific, and you're done. Mains, you can read like a story if you've understood this. Because, for example, in my case, I could never remember 15 points, but if I broke every answer into 5 sub-dimensions, I can easily remember 3 points for everything. It becomes, your whole preparation will become much faster, much easier, and your answer will become much better. So I would say that it's definitely worth thinking over what I've said and trying to incorporate it. Don't think of prelims as mains as two separate exams. Everything you study in prelims can be used to just make your mains answers more specific and more pointed and less generic. Finally, I'll tell you that while you're still preparing, don't forget that prelims is only qualifying. There's no no, nothing will be gained by just qualifying prelims and not making it past mains and interview. Prelims is just something you need to clear with a decent margin. If you prepare only for prelims, you're not going to do yourself any favor by failing later. And don't ever think of it like first attempt, second attempt. The attempt you have right now is the only attempt. Think of it that way. Focus on what you're doing now. Don't look at the future. Don't look at the future and think that in my next attempt I'll do this. Realize how precious every year is, that it costs a whole year of your life, and there are plenty of other things you could also be doing this time. So give it your best shot now. Don't think of it as attempts. I've never understood that. Don't ever. It's a whole year of your life if you don't make it in one attempt. Try to give everything in one attempt itself. And I guess that's all from my side for this.